rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
All right, shut, everyone. Welcome back to your home away from home for all things Star Wars. We are your source for the Force. We're kind of like Star Wars Celebration coming to you each and every week in podcast form. And if you're anything like me, anything like us, you've been missing new Star Wars each and every week. You kind of start taking it for granted. These new episodes come on and you talk about what you like, you bitch about it, and then when it's gone, you really miss it. And I especially miss our hangs, the after shows. It was such a great way to experience, and is such a great way. We have plans for when the Kenobi series launches in May. We'll be doing more, live after shows. But when they're gone, I miss them. It's a great way to experience Star Wars together, and I think. If you're feeling like we are, we might have a solution for you this week on a special episode of Rebel Force Radio. And by we, I mean myself. My name is Jason, and with me, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack. Hey, we're starting the show.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Just catching up on a little reading here.
It's Cracked Magazine. This is hard. It's hardly reading. I mean, I guess technically speaking, it's not exactly Shakespeare you're working on there. Look at that. What is that? It's got C-3PO on the cover of this Cracked Magazine, which, was always sort of also ran to Mad Magazine. It's sort of like the Pepsi, the Mad's Coke. Who's he spanking? Is he spanking R2?
Well,
he's about to.
And the little cracked painter guy.
Yeah.
I think, what was his name? Nebish? I forget. I don't. But yeah, I dug up this old issue of Cracked. It's from November 1977. That's the actual date on the magazine.
November of 77.
Yeah, and it does feature the Star Wars parody. Most people know the Mad Magazine parody, but Cracked was there. And like Jason said, it was kind of like a I wouldn't call it second-rate Mad Magazine. It was like Mad Magazine's twisted cousin.
They tried to out Mad
Really
Mad.
great. Everyone remembers Mad for their Star Wars parodies, but Cracked was also out there in the 70s doing funny stuff as well.
Here's what's amazing to me, though, about that. You said that's from November. When's the last
the date
time?
on the cover.
But
so
still,
probably
the movie came out in May, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
June, July, August, September, October, November. When's the last time, Jim, you knew of a movie that came out and 6 months later, they were still talking about it to the point where it was, being parodied in something like Cracked or Mad Magazine? That's what's so amazing about that time period, is that the movie came out and people couldn't stop talking about it. Well, I mean, you could make a case that they didn't stop talking about it ever, but I mean, even Spider-Man, right? It was the biggest movie one of the biggest movies of all time, this latest Spider-Man movie. But no one's talking about it right now. It came out, ran its course a couple of months, and it's forgotten. It just is so crazy to think about how Star Wars, even in its early days, just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, I was there for that. I mean, because it was a gradual buildup. It hit everywhere, but I mean, word didn't spread in rapid time like it does in the internet age. I loved Crack's depiction of Ben Kenobi scaring off the sand people with the crate dragon cry. It's right here. And he's saying, ooga booga. And the sand people are all saying, yipe, 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 yipe. Ooga booga.
Ooga booga.
Yipe, yipe.
Ooga booga.
See, that's where I would go for my cutting edge commentary and comedy in the 70s. Cracked Magazine, ladies and gentlemen.
They've got to have. I mean, Mad put out a sort of a compendium book of all of their Star Wars parodies through the years.
Yes.
I wonder if Cracked has something like that too. So if you would think they
should do
might.
that. Cracked should do that. But like Mad Magazine is an entity that's gone on and on. I know the Cracked trademark is being used for a website nowadays. I don't know if the magazine, I find it highly unlikely the magazine is still being printed. I wonder when the last Cracked magazine came out, because I'm telling you folks, I would look forward to those as much as the Mad Magazine parodies of Star Wars when they came out. I mean, Mad was the greatest. Nothing beats Mad. But Cracked magazine. When did that thing ramp up? They got
a website, cracked.com, and it seems like they're trying. Yeah. Look here. Hey, everybody. Cracked's mascot is back.
The painter, the little
painter guy. Yeah. So it looks like you're right. They're licensing this.
Yeah.
And hoping to sort of bring the franchise back, I guess. The Cracked franchise back.
So Cracked was floating around out there until the early 2000s. And then it, the distribution just suffered. Oh, it got sold to Weekly World News.
Oh, interesting. I got a pic here of George Costanza reading it in an episode of Seinfeld. Some deep reading by Costanza.
Dark Horse Star Wars comic editor Pete James briefly joined the staff of Cracked during this time in the early 2000s. And if we're going to talk about Star Wars and Dark Horse comics, we have to say RIP to Tom Veitch, who was the mastermind behind the Dark Empire comics with Dark Horse. He just passed away, but Tom Veitch, he was one of those guys during the Renaissance of Star Wars who really stepped up. My God, Tom was 80. Jeez, I thought he was younger than that. But he did pass away, and his work on Star Wars comic books like Dark Empire, Tales of the Jedi, those were written by Tom Veitch. I apologize if I'm saying his name incorrectly. It's Veitch.
I could see it be, Veitch or
Veitch. Yeah, it's Veitch. That's how I've always said it in my head. Jason and we never had the benefit of actually meeting the man and interviewing him here on the show, even though we have talked to some comic book writers. But Tom passed away this week, and I sure love Dark Empire and Tales of the Jedi. Oh my God, are those a couple of my favorite Star Wars comic books of all time? So R.I.P. Tom, definitely from the Rebel Force Radio family.
As I said at the top of the show, we think we may have a solution to your post after show, your post Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett blues. Got a special episode of Rebel Force Radio this week. So for Rebel Force Radio Patreon members, you know that we do this show called Comlink, where we just dedicate the hour or however long we have to answering your voicemails. Well, we put the call out. Jimmy Mack put the bat signal out for our Rebel Force Radio Patreon members and said, hey, give us a call, leave us a voicemail. And we, because we want it for this week on RFR, because we've been missing you guys. We want to hear from you. We want to know how, the Book of Boba Fett and everything is settling these days. And so we thought that might be fun to do is just take some voicemails and, have a nice casual chat with RFR supporters.
No Star Wars topic off limit. We don't even know what we're going to hear when we press play on these voice memos and voicemails.
Definitely not.
So you guys are going to surprise us. You're going to keep us on our toes. You do it every week on the RFR Q&A, which is a Patreon exclusive show. So we're dipping deeper into our pool of Patreon supporters. We're casting the net wide to catch some of the best Star Wars opinions, commentary, questions, analysis from the best bunch of Star Wars fans out there in the internet. They can all be found at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. And so let's dive right in. Let's get into it. Let's hear our first voice message. We do have voicemail as well as the voice memos, which I collected before the show.
Oh, we do have voicemail? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
right. While
feel
we're playing
free to dip into that as well. But the voice memos you have right there at your fingertips. So let's kick things off.
All right. Well, let's do it. Let's do it right. Let's hear from Mr. C.O. Bibble here.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message after the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, Jason and Jimmy. This is Ben up north. And I wanted to get your thoughts on the Force Relax ability that Qui-Gon uses on Jar Jar in The Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon puts his hand on Jar Jar's shoulder, says the word relax, and as Jar Jar slumps in his seat, Obi-Wan says that Qui-Gon overdid it. Yeah. Has this ability ever showed up anywhere else, or might it be a variation of a mind trick? I found one possible instance in the 1976 novelization of Star Wars. Jimmy, if you could indulge me and read the last full paragraph on page 90. I know you keep that book handy. I just wanted to get your general thoughts on this ability.
As he reaches up.
It's been puzzling me since 1999. Thanks, guys.
Page 90. All right.
He said last paragraph, correct?
Last paragraph, page 90. Now, it's going to depend on which version that you have, too. So
you're right about that. I have the original paperback.
It's not the Bible, version. Where they've got it by the book and the line and the word.
No, here we go. I think we're right on.
Okay.
I think this is good.
He assumes you had
the original
the
paperback.
Yeah.
The very first printing with the Ralph McQuarrie Darth Vader on the cover, vastly different from the Vader we see in the final film.
Oh, yeah.
Along with Luke not wearing a shorty robe.
No, Vader's kind of got that pushed in face going on.
Yeah, and it's a classic 3PO and R2 McQuarries.
Mm-hmm. With their laser swords.
Yeah. Chewie's not quite the lemur anymore. He looks more like the Chewie we see. But here it is, the final paragraph. Luke was maneuvering the land speeder through the town's outskirts when several tall, gleaming forms appeared from nowhere and began to close a circle around him. For one panicked moment, he considered gunning the engine and racing through the pedestrians and other vehicles. A startlingly firm grip on his arm both restrained and relaxed him. He glanced over to see Kenobi smiling, warning him. So he grabs his arm, and that chills him out. He gets a chill. He takes a chill pill when Obi-Wan grabs his arm. And so then when Qui-Gon Jinn puts his hand on Jar Jar Binks' shoulder while he's freaking out as they're driving Una Bongo through the middle of Oda Gunga, or the planet Naboo, as they're being chased by Sandu sea monsters. And I'm pulling this all out of my ass.
I know
Sandu sea monsters. And
I know they all have names. They all have names.
They all have names. All those fishes have names.
They run into 3 different fish. There's the first one. The mom is guarding the babies. And that scene is one of those where it's like, oh, it's just the way that George just layers stuff in, because you might see that at first and you go, oh, it's a sea monster. You go back, and the novelization helps. You go back and you realize it's a mama sea monster guarding her baby monsters. Which, like I said, is
bigger fish.
Yeah, but it's just that world building that George did. It wasn't enough for there just to be a sea monster. We gotta know why it's ticked off. It's ticked off because it's guarding the babies. It's just,
but Jar Jar's
George puts that much detail. Yeah,
he's in the cockpit. He's freaking. He's monsters out there. Misa in here. What the? And so Qui-Gon chills him out. He puts his hand on his shoulder, and he's just like, and Obi-Wan casually glances over. He goes, "You overdid it."
Yeah.
And they just go on about their business. No explanation whatsoever. He just knocked the guy out cold just by touching. Was it a Vulcan nerve pinch? Could it have been a Vulcan nerve pinch? Is that what Obi-Wan was doing to Luke as he was driving his land speeder through Mos Eisley? He grabbed him by the arm and gave him that little Vulcan nerve pinch there in the arm. And it chilled out Luke.
It chilled out Jar Jar. I hope that this wasn't just Liam Neeson improvising on set. Oh, I saw this in one of those Star Treks I just put
Yeah, sure, Dr. Spock, he's allowed to do it, let Dr. Qui-Gon do it,
Well, okay, it takes me back to seeing Phantom Menace for the first time because, the Jedi powers. I mean, we saw a few demonstrated in the original trilogy, but we knew going into the prequels that we were going to see the Jedi completely unhinged, unleashed, unfettered. We were going to see a bunch of force powers. And what do we see? We see the Jedi mind trick right away. Right there, Qui-Gon with the protocol droid. We see them sort of do that super fast run from the droidekas where they almost turn invisible. And that's another thing that just kind of the super speed run just kind of goes. The big jump when they jump out of the shaft and they start hiding and they start seeing the battle droids getting ready to go on Naboo. They do that big jump down. So
we saw Luke jumping though. We saw a lot of Luke jumping prior to that.
We saw Luke jump up, but I didn't see the big jump down. I mean,
if you jump up, you have to jump down.
You can jump down.
So, I mean,
that's true. But I guess what I'm saying is, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, you saw all this cool new Jedi stuff. Yes. And it was like George was giving a lot, to us right away. That scene did stick out at me. And I remember watching it in the, because I had gone out and I had bought the novelization of Phantom Menace first before I saw the movie. But I committed to not touch. I didn't want to touch it. I bought because they had 4 different covers. They had one with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan on the cover. They had, I believe, a Padme Amidala. They had a young Anakin, and they had a Darth Maul. I think those were the 4 covers of the hardback.
The Maul was the hard one to find.
Yeah,
I ended up with the Anakin, and it was a gift.
Oh, okay. It was
a gift from Wendy. She was so proud to give it to me.
She's like, yeah, it's Anakin.
And I didn't open it until after I saw the film.
That's right. Well. You can't. So then I get, after I see it for the first time, then I couldn't wait to rip that open and read. And there were some scenes that I just wanted some extra clarity on. And that was one of them. Because I was like, I think he did a Jedi thing with Jar Jar. I think he did. Did he really do it?
Yeah.
And it's in the book.
It's very underplayed on the film.
Underplayed.
Very underplayed.
Yes.
Yeah. It'll go right by you if you're not looking for it.
Yeah. And, over the years, I remember thinking very harshly and critically about that. I felt that all the Jedi shtick, all the Jedi business should be big and larger than life in a big moment. But, now as I'm a little older and maybe a little wiser, I realize what George was doing. It was just plopping us down in the middle of this universe. Things were what they were. It wasn't magic tricks. It wasn't hocus pocus. It was everyday life for these people. And it was how they, navigated the world. And so it was commonplace, at least among them. So I look back on that and I really like it. I don't think beyond that scene that there is another moment, at least in on-screen Star Wars, where they do this relaxation thing. I'd love it if someone did it to me.
The Jedi chill pill.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it's been used. There's none that I can think of, But I also have put a little bit of faith into the idea that one strong in the Force does affect people within proximity of them just by their mere connection to the light side of the Force. I think that's the thing that really kind of opened up Din Djarin into a greater existence as opposed to chasing down the bounties and going for the payday and then going off to the next job and living that very professional lifestyle. He had something to care about. And I think it was the Force itself that gave Din Djarin the motivation to care about Grogu. Also, the clones. The clones were led by Jedi generals throughout the Clone Wars, and a lot of them developed really interesting connections to each other, to nature, to life. They developed identities and really lived beyond what they were programmed to do. So I think the proximity to Jedi had something to do with that. That's in my head canon, you know. These are things that don't need to be spelled out for me in an episode or a movie. This is just stuff that I see the Force as, you know. The Force can never be defined either as far as what you think it can and can't do.
Yeah.
There can never be restrictions on the Force ever.
I totally agree.
Every fan has their own connection and interpretation of what the Force is. And that's George Lucas created the Force specifically to serve that purpose.
I totally agree. I think that the Force manifests itself in your experience the way you need it at the time, what you need at the time, the power, the ability that you need in the moment is what the Force can provide. And I think it's relative to your understanding of the principles that make it work, make it flow, as Yoda would say. But yes, I know. I don't think there are limits. I don't think there are bounds. And in that moment, what they needed, going back to the what did he call it? We're going to speed you away in the what was the name of the show?
Unabongo.
In Unabongo. In that moment, what they needed was peace and quiet and the ability to focus on the matter at hand. And they didn't need this loose cannon, causing all kinds of additional headache and stress. But I mean, what parent hasn't thought of, wouldn't you love to be able to do that to your babies when they're, relax? That'd be great.
Coworkers,
well,
law enforcement, the list goes, wait, food workers, so many people.
Yeah. So
mother-in-laws. No,
oh God. Amen.
The old mother-in-law joke.
It's not always a joke. All right.
Hey, RFR. This is Devin from Lombard, Illinois. And my question for you guys is this. Do you have any type of environment or smell or any type of sense or memory that makes you just want to watch Star Wars or something from the galaxy far, far away? For example, whenever I'm at a mall around Christmas time and I walk around past a Macy's or any type of department store, I suddenly have the urge to watch The Phantom Menace. Throw me back to when I was 4 years old. I think it has to do with all the promotional period during that time with the toys and the season and just being a little kid. I remember my mom leaving me in the department store and they had a demo version of an old pod racer game, I think, on N64 for the movie around that time in 99. So, hope you guys enjoy the question. Look forward to hearing this answered. Take care. May the Force be with you.
Wow.
That's a great one. Wow. That's a good one. A smell. What were the other options? A smell? Did he say a season? Or was it just a smell?
Smell.
Yeah.
There were three things he said.
Yeah.
Play it again.
All right, let's
hear
again.
what he said.
This is Devin.
Do you have any type of environment or smell or any type of sense or memory that makes you just
environment, sense, memory,
smell, sense, or memory? Oh, that's a good one.
Mine is. I will say mine is seasonal. There's something about those first warm nights of spring, late spring, that, and I've always loved like warm nights, summer nights, and I remember very distinctly the countdown, the unrelenting excitement for Phantom Menace. And I had taken a job. I was a freshman in college, and I had taken a job at they had just built a new movie theater, an AMC theater right there on campus. And I thought, okay, well, I know these people that work at these movie theaters. I know they get to see stuff early, and I want to see Star Wars early. So I'm like, if I got to get a job, I'll get a job at a movie theater. At least I know I can get tickets and all of that. And I just remember the countdown was sort of marked by the changing of the season. And as things got warmer and the nights got warmer and getting through that winter and waiting and then the trailer and all of that. And so to this day, as the season turns and as those nights turn warmer, I feel that tug. I feel that pull. That would probably be the most seasonal thing for me. And as far as smells go, The smell of new action figures, toys, that plastic smell. I love that one.
Oh, God, if you can bottle that, we'd be bajillionaires, man. Yeah, get that new action figure smell. I love it. I love it. For me, it's more of a sound that has nothing to do with Star Wars. I admit, I flash back to summers in the 70s when I hear some disco songs.
Oh yeah,
I like the nightlife. I like the boogie. I love the disco round. That gets me thinking about X-Wings and TIE fighters, believe it or not. It really, really does. There are certain disco songs from that era that I'll listen to, and I'll think of summer nights in the 70s and being a little kid going to the drive-in to see Star Wars for the 500th time. And that's one thing that has nothing to do with Star Wars that makes me think about it. So I would definitely say, and I'm down with you, Swank, on the fresh action figure smell. I mean, really, that's Nirvana, man. I mean, that is just, woo! I love it.
The other one that gets me, because I was not a sports card guy. Now my brother was really into like football cards and stuff, but I loved non-sport cards. What they called non-sport cards. I loved, the trading cards based on movies and TV shows.
Oh yeah,
and that smell of those wax packs opening up. That's another one. The bubble gum, the stale gum that's in there, and the smell of that powdered sugar that would be on the gum and it would get on the cards, and the wax wrapper. Like that really gets me in the Star Wars mood. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a Slurpee sometimes too will get me into a Star Wars mood. Because there were promotional tie-ins with 7-Eleven, and I just remember right around when The Empire Strikes Back opened. This was May 1980, and I was playing in Little League, and as tradition, after every game or practice, we would stop by the 7-Eleven there on the corner of the street, real close to the baseball diamond, and get a Slurpee or whatever. And they had these heads, these little plastic heads from Star Wars that were filled with candy. It was like kind of a sweet tart sort of candy, tiny. They were like little tiny pellets inside these plastic heads. You had Darth Vader, you had Chewbacca, 2-1B, oddly enough. And I would go and grab myself a Slurpee and a plastic Star Wars head filled with sugary candy after every Little League practice. I sadly don't have, at least I don't think I have, any of those little plastic heads still in my collection. But that was something that was like a taste, a smell. The 7-Eleven has a vibe to it and everything. And it's just like I almost get taken back to that. But definitely going up and down the aisles in the 7-Eleven, looking at the wax packs of action figures, there was a certain, that's an environment, that's a smell, that's a sensation that takes me back to that time. It might not be exclusively Star Wars, but pretty much everything I did in the 70s and 80s was exclusively Star Wars. So
what you're doing now is
memory I have
exclusively Star Wars.
Every memory I have is exclusively Star Wars, but I dig the question. I really do. And
very cool.
That has answers that could be peeled away many layers. I mean, we could almost dedicate a whole show about this if we thought about it for 5 minutes. But yeah, great one. Who sent that? That was Trevor. That was Devin. Thank you, Devin. Good one. Devin. Great one.
This is Danny from SoCal. First-time caller. I've been listening since early last year. I am a Patreon member now, which I love, and you guys with the Q&A especially, I really like the Q&A. But my question I wanted to get out to you guys real quick is regarding the Kenobi series. Is kind of like, we've all been talking about what we want to see and all the expectations and this and that. But what's kind of like the one kind of blasphemous thing that they can do that you think would just piss off older fans, newer fans, prequel, OT, whatever it is? Kind of what's like the one thing that they can kind of do that everyone will kind of just be like,
third rail? What can't you touch?
Not with Kenobi. We put up with Boba stuff, and it's give and take. It's just good Star Wars, so it's like, okay, we'll go with it. But it seems like with Kenobi, like I was listening to you guys' show today, and you're saying with Kenobi, it's just so much more precious as a character. So I kind of wanted to get your idea, your guys' idea on, kind of what's
they go
kind of
wrong?
these blasphemous moves that they could make. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. We did touch on this on a previous episode, and what I'll go back to is that I think that Kenobi, if you look at the Ewan McGregor interpretation, you look at the Alec Guinness interpretation, you look at the connective tissue that the great James Arnold Taylor provided throughout Clone Wars, he's a fairly consistent character. Now, I don't want to say he doesn't undergo growth and evolution, but for the most part, he's true blue. He's by the book for the most part. He understands his responsibilities. He doesn't shirk his responsibilities. He meets them. So anything that they would do to undermine that, for me, would be a disservice to the character. I don't want my expectations subverted. You've got a great character in Obi-Wan Kenobi, a wonderful character. Give us that character in a new adventure. Give us a sense of what was going on with him on Tatooine, and I think everyone will be happy. You don't have to make it overly difficult. You don't have to reinvent or rethink the character. Give us Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's well established. There's many, 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 many hours of this character on screen, both live action and animation. There's no reason to reinvent it. You can reinvent some things around him, give us new environments, new characters for him to interact with, but please just leave him alone. That's my take.
I fear romantic interest will do things to derail the character. A lot of times I criticize modern Star Wars, Disney-era Star Wars, for displaying no romantic element to the storytelling, because they don't. There's no romance anywhere.
No, they avoid
in Star
it.
Wars
They
anymore.
avoid it. Yeah.
Like the plague.
Yeah.
None in the movies, none in the spin-off series. Mando came close. He did like that one lady in that village where they were fishing for shrimp. He liked her a lot.
Oh, he did like her, and she was great. The other thing I would point out,
but still, it skirted
it, sure. And the thing with Finn and Rey that they started, and I thought really well in Force Awakens, you could tell he was crushing on her hard, and who could blame him? We all fell in love with Daisy Ridley as Rey.
A boyfriend.
Yeah.
He specifically asked about a boyfriend, which was setting the foundation for a future romantic relationship between the two.
And they ran away from it.
No, they ran to Rose. And then they ran to Xana.
That's right.
There was Finn was passed around like a cheap bottle of wine at a party with no glasses.
You can understand why he would be upset. You can really understand why John Boyega would be upset, because if you're reading
the trajectory for the character was completely abandoned right after it was established, each and every film. So I get it. I get where Boyega's coming from.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing about Kenobi is to see him slip to the dark side in any way, I think would be failing him as a character. Temptations from the dark side, yes, excellent for the character. But actually slipping into the dark side realm like Anakin did, there has to be
we don't want that.
there has to be boundaries between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and you can't have them sharing experiences. They have to be the polar opposites in Star Wars. They have to be.
And you can't forget he was already tempted, by Dooku in a pretty profound way. Dooku was, in some ways was sort of opening up the Sith kimono and letting him know and confirming a lot of things that he felt and believed to be true at the time. And Obi-Wan held fast there. There was really no hesitation.
None whatsoever. Total confidence.
Yes.
Total confidence in his faith and his abilities.
Yep.
And he never backed off of that, even though he was strung up by his nutsack and getting prepared for his execution.
Right.
Well, I should say Obi-Wan's wooden nuts. That's a throwback right there. Remember Obi-Wan's wooden nuts?
Obi-Wan's wooden, how can I forget?
I can't believe I said Obi-Wan had wooden nuts. I can't believe I said Obi-Wan had wooden nuts. I can't believe I said Obi-Wan had wooden nuts. I can't believe I said Obi-Wan had wooden nuts.
Good question. Good question. My answer is anything that changes the true blue nature of the character. And Jim, you're a little bit wary of the romance that might be creeping in. You're sensing the possibility of a personal relationship, maybe.
Yeah, I fear that with Obi-Wan. Other Star Wars characters, not so much. I really wanted it in the sequel trilogy, and it didn't pay off. I got Kylo and Rey kissing at the end, and I swear to God, people were about ready to burn the house down when that happened. So I didn't see what the big deal was. I thought it was a little overdue, quite honestly. The sexual tension between the two of them was so thick, you could cut it with a lightsaber. But a double-bladed one at that.
Yeah. All right.
But, so people freaked out about that. But romance in Star Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi, I mean, we got his true love is Satine. That's the closest he ever got to crossing into a romantic relationship. By the time he's in exile, he is fully committed to the Force and becoming one who has the ability to communicate with the dead, like Qui-Gon Jinn. And be, returning to becoming his Padawan. And I think Obi-Wan was 1,000% committed to that because he was all that was left of the Jedi. And the rules of the Jedi are compassion, yes. Attachment, no.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Jimmy. This is Eric from Phoenix calling in for the Comlink episode you're doing this week. My question for you guys is, have you ever done the Yoda questionnaire? I don't think both of you have done the Yoda questionnaire, and I would love to hear you two do those answers and hear you discuss the answers that you give to the questionnaire. So thank you for everything you guys do. Love the show. Have a great time.
Oh, man. Did we just get called out about
the Yoda questionnaire?
Jazz hands.
I don't know.
So.
It just feels,
I think so. Well,
should we do it?
Well, this is fun. Yeah, let's do it.
We should do it.
I don't ever recall answering these questions.
I don't either.
Find them now.
All right.
I believe I have them here.
Get that email from Yoda. I'm going to have to search from Yoda.
Yeah, I got them.
You got them?
9 of them. Yeah, 9 of them. We should do the full thing,
The unabridged version?
The unabridged.
Unabridged version, okay.
Yes.
All right, you want to ask the questions and we'll both go with our answers? Because you got them in front of you.
Yeah, it would be awkward if I asked you the question, then you ask me the question.
Right.
It would just
be
kind of weird. So.
Okay.
All right, number 1, Jason Swank, you answer first. What is your favorite Star Wars line of dialogue from the films? What is your favorite Star Wars line?
That is why you fail.
Why?
Why?
Why? I'm sorry. Why?
Because the line that comes before it is Luke says, "I don't believe it," and it says it's such a simple concept, and Yoda answers him so matter-of-factly, "Yeah, that is why you fail, because you don't believe it."
You have to believe.
And Luke is saying it. What I love about that moment is Luke is saying it as a compliment to Yoda. Like he's like his mind is blown. He's saying to Yoda, he's like, dude, that was amazing. I don't believe it. Instead of Yoda, being like, yeah, all right. Yeah, you're right. That was pretty amazing. He just looks right at him.
No props.
No
props for Yoda.
He just says, yeah, that is why you fail. Because you don't believe it.
So turn around and said, that blew my mind, dude. Teach me how to do that.
Yes.
And Luke just says, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Loser. And I hate to ever talk about Luke Skywalker as being a loser because he represents us. You know?
Yes, we're him. That's right. We're him.
Star Wars proposes complex questions, and it asks the Jedi themselves to completely sacrifice a lot of what they personally feel and desire and want and are motivated by. You know, it asks them to throw all that away. And I think it does that of us as an audience as well. And it's taken me years to wrap my head around things like that. That is why you fail. As a kid, I'm watching, I'm like going, are you telling me Luke Skywalker's a failure? This guy, he's climbing the vines. He's got Yoda on his back. He's doing handstands with one hand while he's levitating rocks. He blew up the Death Star. He took down those AT-ATs. Are you telling me Luke Skywalker fails? I couldn't get it. As a kid, I just didn't get it. I didn't hear what it was, the message that was being said.
But now you know.
For me, Jason, any final thoughts on?
No, that's it. That's
on
it.
your
For
favorite
you.
line?
Yeah, what is your favorite line? I think I know what it is. Just curious if it's still the same as what I think it is.
Right. Typically, I would find something from the original trilogy to use in this situation, but this is one I have to defer to the prequel trilogy because I've always been very fond of Qui-Gon Jinn's line to young Anakin when he was doubting himself. And he told Anakin, your focus determines your reality. And it's a very Zen thing, you know, very Zen. It takes a while to kind of wrap your head around that. And I actually was able to do that once when I was in line for this job. This is about 15 years ago. And I didn't get the job. And I got the rejection call while I was grocery shopping. I had to be pushing the cart around. And I get the call in the produce section. And, you know, produce, if you rearrange the letters, it says, you spell pod race. All right, well, hold on. That's me being psychotic.
I mean, close.
But, yeah, I remember where I was when I got the rejection for this job. And I'm glad I didn't get the job in the long run. It would have changed my life and probably not for the better. It would have changed me. And I wouldn't have liked that. So I remember hanging up the phone. I think it was my flip phone at the time. And putting it in my pocket and just saying, okay, wow, that really, really sucks. And it was almost in an instant. I heard what Qui-Gon Jinn was saying. Your focus determines your reality. And if I'm going to take any more steps further with the shopping cart, thinking I was just dealt a terrible blow, then I'm going to carry that with me out of this store and into my life. And I can't let that happen. And I just heard those words resonate in my head and really meditated on what he was saying. Your focus determines your reality. And I came to the determination that nothing could be more true than what was spoken from Qui-Gon Jinn to Anakin Skywalker on that day of the pod race. And I embraced it. And I think it saved me. I really do. I really think it saved me because everything just fell in the right direction after that. And, you know, it's easy to slide into depression and to find things in general entertainment that can give you the sort of motivational push to get through life's troubles and traumas. I think that makes it a pretty damn important piece of entertainment in my book. And I really learned to respect George Lucas for including that line of dialogue in The Phantom Menace. And I have, over the years, put a great amount of value on those few words. Your focus determines your reality. It's so true.
It is so true. And we have, you know, we just got wrapped up with the Olympics, and Olympic athletes are such a great example of this. A lot of professional athletes where they spend hours, they spend days envisioning and thinking about the perfect shot, the perfect move, the perfect routine, whatever their sport is, and the perfect race. And a lot of times it is that ability to sort of visualize it first to the point where you can taste it, you can smell it, you can hear the crowd, you create such a you create, there's a lot of times they'll say there's two creations. There's the creation in thought, and then there's the creation in reality, the manifestation of that thought. And that's kind of what I always thought about Qui-Gon's line there is, the first creation is, is your focus. So yeah, it's like you got to think it before you can achieve it. And it seems so trite, but it's so true.
Yeah. And if you've experienced it, you also have to think it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost in relation to how you connect with the past as well as you're connecting with the present. Because those are all the things that shape you. And you can take what you want out of it, or you can dwell in the misery of the failure it might have provided, or you can get too high off of the success you might have achieved.
Right.
If you keep it all in check, things might be a little more even-handed for you throughout the rest of your life. So,
so
I like that. I like that message a lot.
I have an idea, because I think what I sense might happen is that the rest of the show is going to be us doing the Yoda questionnaire, because it's so good. So how about we do this? What if we keep coming back to that? Let's do another call, and then we'll come back and we'll do the second question of the Yoda questionnaire.
Okay.
Let's do that.
If there's any questions left over, we'll get to them on a future RFR.
Yes.
Good call, Jason. Let's balance the show out with some calls and then some introspective dives into our Star Wars head fandom. So, who's next?
Hey, guys. Chet, and Dawanawaga.
Nice.
Just wanted to lay out my feelings on some of the stuff we got going on here in this crazy era of streaming Star Wars. Mando, I just gotta say to you, keep it up. No notes here. Next, Boba. We had a great time watching this in my house. Super fun. It brought the family together every week.
Yeah.
The Mando parts seem to hit every beat. Right. However, in the end, I find myself a bit lost when it comes to the actual Boba parts of the show. Really, what was the point of Boba's arc? I don't really know. Something just felt off about it. But with Kenobi coming up, Kenobi, my favorite character, and a show dealing with the two most influential characters in Star Wars, the show has me more excited than anything Disney has yet to do with Star Wars. So I'm super stoked, but I'm also super worried.
Don't be worried.
Disney. I'm getting the vibe from fans that this is kind of Disney's last chance to get legacy characters right. And then we got Ahsoka, a show that I feel is filled with unexpected hope and promise. I kind of feel that this show will finally break us from the Skywalker saga in a way that continues to build upon all the Star Wars we have come to love and taken us in a new direction with different characters and in a direction I think we all kind of want to go.
We call this Star Wars therapy, folks. That's what this is.
Thoughts are. Also, one more thing. Has Puppet Lando's been felt yet?
Has it been felt? I felt it.
Really? We're going to have to make sure you guys get separate rooms at the next convention, because we can't have that going on.
Oh, no. Keep him locked away. There were a lot of observations there as far as questions, Jim. The one that I kind of feel like he made a statement. He said, "I feel like that Obi-Wan is Disney's last shot to get legacy characters right." He also talked about Boba's arc. Something that I've been wrestling with this for the last couple of weeks since the end of Book of Boba Fett, and because I experienced a lot of the same as what a lot of fans of Star Wars fans experienced, which is slight unfulfillment, at least when it comes to Boba's arc. And I have a very simple way of dealing with it, which is it's not over. It's not over. It was I think that for me, the marketing of it was such that they didn't want to commit that it was going to be a multi-season thing. It felt very definitive, like this is the book of Boba Fett. This is the beginning, the middle, the end of Boba Fett. And so every episode we're like, but what about if it would have just been more like season 1 of Boba Fett? I think we would have been a little bit more forgiving. As a first season to a multi-series or multi-season show, I think it plays very well. As a one and done, a lot of plot holes, a lot of things that, really should, questions that should have been answered. I don't think we've seen the last of Boba Fett in the Filoni-verse. I think we've just begun. And so when I started thinking about that, I started going, as an opening salvo, as a beginning, as a first season, not bad.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. I look at it more as an extension of The Mandalorian, quite honestly. It's part of that more than anything, more than a standalone. I think Ahsoka also is going to be part of the Mandalorian big picture. And it's going to introduce new characters along the way. With Book of Boba Fett, we get introduced to a lot of new characters. You get Black Chrysanthemum. You get Major Domo. You get. I know Swank doesn't like Major Domo. I thought David Pasquesi did a really good job. I thought his.
Oh, come on.
He
was terrible. No, he was awful.
He was not terrible. I thought he was fabulous. I really did. He played the greasy slime ball exactly how he should. And I loved all of his affectations with the hand gestures and
he was so not Star Warsy.
I loved it. I thought Pasquesi was great. I thought he was great. I thought he just played a really funny character. And, like Amy Sedaris, it's that type of character.
Yeah.
And I think that's starting to find its place in Star Wars more and more, actually. Remember, the desire of Lucasfilm was to have Star Wars expanding into other genres of filmmaking, from comedy to war films, etc. It's I'd love to see a Star Wars horror film. I've always wanted to.
Well, they did that great series of the Stormtroopers. What was that? The Dead Stormtroopers? Death Trooper? Well,
Death Troopers was a novel by Joel Schreiber, and I thought that was really good. It was a really great novel, expanded universe stuff. It was like
Zombie
Stormtroopers.
Zombie Stormtroopers.
Zombie Stormtroopers. I hear rumors all the time about different sort of Star Wars series that are in developments, everything from a Stranger Things type show that features kids, teenagers on some kind of weird adventure. Yeah, that gets talked about. I hear about that. I hear about a Finn show, a show about Finn. And none of this stuff has any kind of merit in my book because of who I'm hearing it from. But yeah,
got to consider the source on these rumors, huh?
I take care of my friends and my enemies. But yeah. So we have open ears to everything around here. I just don't know. And then it's supposed to be based in the High Republic era, and it's gonna be a Stranger Things-esque whoop-de-doo. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I know a lot of things are flying around as far as ideas, pitches, development.
I don't think we're going to get I don't think that these. What's the show that's supposed to take place in the High Republic era? Is that Acolytes?
The Acolyte, yes.
Acolytes. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Make a prediction here.
I don't think
it's going to happen. I don't.
It's in full pre-production right now, and scripts are largely done for that show. That should go in front of cameras probably late this year, early next year.
I don't think we'll see
the
it.
Acolyte.
If we do see it,
What about the Lando
High
show?
Republic
What
era.
about the Lando show? This week it was announced that Donald Glover's comedy series Atlanta is wrapping up after 4 seasons. Does this open up the door for him then to segue into Star Wars and play Lando in a Disney Plus series?
I believe Lando will happen before before a High Republic live action series.
That's where you'll get your romance in Star Wars. Lando will be having it out with all sort of electronic accessories and droids, vacuum cleaners, speeder bikes, you name it. Nothing is off limits.
Yeah, getting back to the High Republic thing. I mean, I know it has its fan base out there, but they've been really trying to push this for a while, and I don't see it sticking with people. I don't see there being any real buzz, any real hype. They're not creating anything that is groundbreaking in terms of Star Wars. I know they threw Yoda in at some point, young Yoda. If they were going to do a Star Wars series that took place during that era, they'd have to throw in Yoda. They'd have to. Otherwise, there's just nothing there. There are no characters that are screaming for their time in the spotlight that a Disney Plus live action series. I could maybe buy animated. I just don't see it happening. Maybe that show by title will happen. Sith acolytes and Sith witches or whatever it ends up being.
Right, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. But to say, we're going to bring the High Republic era to to Disney Plus, to live action, I just don't see it. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily going to be an adaptation of anything happening in the High Republic books or novels. I think those things are firmly implanted in publishing. I just think it's set in that era.
I see.
And yes. Now, the High Republic concerns me because they did a year, like you said, Jason, of pushing this era really hard on fans, and it came to a conclusion with the novel Fallen Star by Claudia Gray. So they just released that novel, and it kind of wrapped up that story. Now they're taking the High Republic and they're jumping back like another 100 years.
Oh, they got to keep going backwards.
Yeah.
That's what they do now.
I'm like, wow, that's so weird because they introduced us to literally hundreds of characters in this era. It was so hard to keep track of. I heard some fans needed spreadsheets to be able to follow this story.
Wow.
And now they're gonna like reboot it and jump back another 100 years or so. I just think like, wow, what a waste of time this last year was. And what kind of message is this sending us as Star Wars fans? Are you saying the High Republic was a success or a failure? Was this a plan that was always in the works? And why? Why would you take all of this time to establish and world build a certain era, and then after only 1 year of laying these stories on us that are so top heavy with characters and little consequence, now you're going to jump back another 100 years or whatever and restart the whole thing? Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe something's going over my head. I don't understand what the heck they're thinking.
As soon as now, granted, what I know is what I read. The summaries that I read online, stuff that I hear from, guys like Jimmy Mack, Kyle Newman, others that have kept up with, tried to keep up with this stuff. But when I saw the concept art for these characters, the thing that jumped out at me was how soft everything looks and how there's almost like a fear to define these characters. They're very, you can see, I'm looking at a picture of now, this is the cover of the Claudia Gray, but there's a certain look that these characters and any art that you see associated with this era, there's a softness, a blurriness, a almost like a fear to commit. Everything is very just sort of wishy-washy, open, gray, ambiguous. That's what I see. I don't see any bold colors. I don't see any hard lines taken. I don't see any defining moments in the faces of these characters. Now,
they all have the same expression. You're
do have
showing me the cover of Fallen Order, and there are 5 characters on the front cover of this book, and they all have the exact same expression. Even the Wookiee, they all are they have the same expression on their faces. There is nothing that differentiates any of these characters from one another. They're also homogenized. And it makes a story for me, a sprawling tale like High Republic, really hard for me to follow. Now you're going to jump back in time another decade or so, or another century. I think that's what the plan is.
Wow.
To jump back like in time another century, which might explain some of the motivations of these characters, which don't get explained at all in the novels. There's 2 antagonists, the Drengir and the Nihil. And you have no motivation for either of these 2 antagonists whatsoever. So maybe that's what they're looking to do then, is establish some sort of purpose, because none of these characters have any purpose. I really strongly cannot recommend the High Republic more at this point in time. And I was very open-minded to it. And I still read it because I need to know. I need to read it so you don't have to. That's what I do here for you on Rebel Force Radio.
Yeah, yeah. Getting back to the question, though, so our caller was asking
the question
about,
was not about the High Republic.
It wasn't. We went down, but that's what Comlink is about, man. You guys ask these questions, we go down these rabbit trails. It's good stuff. I think we answered the question. I mean, I don't believe that when you look at Boba Fett, as I'm choosing to look at it, which is the first season or our first sort of deep dive into the character in the Filoni-verse, I don't see it as a disappointment as long as there's more to come, and I think there is more to come. I appreciate and love the fact that we got a sneak peek of Mando Season 3. We call it Mando Season 2.5. My biggest complaint, looking back, is that I feel that they sort of shortchanged Grogu's choice in his time with Luke Skywalker a bit, and it does somewhat undermine, you could say, the end of Season 2. I think they wrapped it up a little too quickly within the Book of Boba Fett, but we'll see. Again, time will tell. I don't think the final chapter is written in any of these characters. Obviously, it's not.
So are you going as far as saying that Grogu choosing the metal chain T-shirt as opposed to the lightsaber, is that the equivalent of Luke Skywalker throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder in The Last Jedi?
Oh, that's a good question. No,
I got him there.
No. I don't think it's equivalent because no.
I don't
think it's equivalent at all. What I think is it was just like a little rushed. Like I'd have liked to have seen Grogu take his time a little bit more with it. I would have liked to have seen Mando sort of on his own without Grogu.
I see. Okay. A little separation between the two.
Yes.
We never got that. We never got the downtime. What did Mando do? What did he do on the bridge of that Star Destroyer when Luke marched off with Baby Yoda? What did he do? He turned around and he's got Bo-Katan staring at him like that Darksaber's mine.
Right.
And Gina Carano looking at him like, I don't know if I got a gig anymore. And they had Moff Gideon, and he's there, and so they have to turn him into the Imperial authorities.
Right.
And
the Republic authorities.
The Republic. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The proper authorities.
Right.
Yeah. I forget where I am in the timeline all the time. And I do that in real life as well. But yeah, so like what happened, right? We have this big blank spot here, all of a sudden he's just missing Baby Yoda.
Yeah, he didn't have a chance to miss him.
He does go off to reconnect with his own people. He hunts down the Mandalorian. But what happened right after that moment?
Yeah.
What did they do with Moff Gideon? Where did everyone go? It could have just been like, wow, that was wild, and they all just split. It was, I got to crash.
Yeah, they're like the Homer Simpson meme where he just steps back into the bush. That was some heavy stuff they just saw. This guy comes in, he's a Jedi Knight, which is like folklore to them at this point, and he cuts through like hot knife through butter through these Death Troopers.
That whole Luke Skywalker is folklore. I thought he was a myth. I've had a lot of difficulty with all of that too over the years. Why can't a physical, historical figure be remembered by people? You know, I mean,
after 30 years,
what is that all about?
Yeah.
You know, I understand that the Empire suppressed information, knowledge, and history. I understand that. But by the point of Rey, that's 30 years after the fall of the Empire. You figure the word would have gotten around town about who blew up the Death Star. You know, Luke probably did the talk show circuit, too, is what I'm figuring. He was on Fallon. He was with Colbert.
You would think. Yeah, once he got through all the Sunday morning political shows to talk about.
Oh, yeah, you do all
how
that,
they were
meet the
gonna,
press.
Right, they got to rebuild the whole government of the galaxy. Can imagine. Hey, what's our next question on the...
Oh, good, Jason.
The Yoda questionnaire.
What, Jason Swank, is your least favorite line of dialogue from a Star Wars film? Least.
Oh, my least. It's very easy now.
Least.
Yeah. If you'd have asked me 5 years ago, it would have been a different answer.
Yeah.
But now, somehow, Palpatine has returned.
Oh, really? That one's on
yeah.
your
That's my
radar.
least favorite. Yeah, of all time. Yeah. It's just the worst. It's the worst because it exemplifies in one line everything that's wrong with the sequel trilogy, in my book. Well, we don't need to give these people an explanation. Come on. All we got to do is just, something dark side. Something legacy.
That's good.
That's
good. For me, when Jar Jar says Dello Felligates, it really gets under my skin, man. I'll tell you. It gets under my skin, man. Dello Felligates.
Really?
It's like, dude, how about a little character development for old Jar Jar? Is that like off the table? Even when he showed character development in The Phantom Menace, he was still doing all of this, wacky slapsticky stuff. He never really assumed any mantle of efficient consistency. He was always just a goof. And I was mad about that Jar Jar never advanced beyond being a goof. Even at that moment when he topples a republic. The Dello Felligates thing, man, it was like, George, just pull back on the reins a little bit, man. Because the horse is running wild.
Dello Felligates.
Dello Felligates. Oh, man. And it's he says it like he's a breath away from destroying a republic. Misa Tankin. Shut up, Jar Jar. Shut your mouth.
Jar Jar kills. How did Jar Jar kill democracy?
Well, he did.
Yes.
He is the one that introduced the legislation that eventually turned Palpatine into an emperor of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Emergency power. He doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about.
I decide we're giving this guy emergency powers.
Misa taken, he's a Sith Lord. But Misa don't know. Dello Felligates. Does Jar Jar really need to be dumbed down anymore in that moment?
That's a good one. All right, how about all right, those are great. Those are great. All right, let's see who's next here. RFR Comlink, we got
Chut, Jason and Jimmy Mac. This is Jeff in Virginia, a Patreon member. So my question is, what planet or planets do you think the Kenobi series will travel to? Obviously, we'll be on Tatooine, but they have to travel off-world. So do we see a new planet? Do we go back to planets we've already seen? Do we just go back to one planet and have all the action happen on there? I wouldn't mind seeing them go back to Jeddah. Really like the design of that city / planet. Maybe Coruscant. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for all you do, and may the Force be with you.
I think I think it's very likely that we're going to see Mandalore. I think that they're going to. Yeah, I know. Jimmy Mac just gave me a look like I don't know, but I think that they're going to continue this whole. I think Mandalore is becoming sort of a theme. What happened to Mandalore? What happened to the people? Obi-Wan Kenobi figures in to a lot of that with his relationship with Satine, and so that'd be my guess. I think if we had to guess in one other planet, we might see is Mandalore.
I've primarily rejected a lot of Mandalore speculation entering into my world of thought about Kenobi. But you're right. I mean, just because Favreau and Filoni aren't the executive producers of this thing doesn't mean it's not going to tie into the big picture. And we've heard things about the Mandalorian past. And we saw what was going on with that planet and that system in the Clone Wars.
Right.
And then we've heard things about the Night of 1,000 Tears and even got a flashback during the Book of Boba Fett. Could we actually see that happen? Or could Obi-Wan Kenobi be affected by the ripples it has across the galaxy when the Mandalorians get wiped out?
Yeah.
Is it genocide, the Night of 1,000 Tears? What happens there? It sure sounds like it is. It sounds like the Mandalorians were completely wiped out, and they were already compromised by the time we were introduced to them as a society in the Clone Wars. You know, they had to live in that dome because they had trashed so much of their planet to begin with. Other factions of their society were exiled off to certain moons and things like that. And there was a fundamentalist sect. There was a progressive sect. They were at odds with each other. How does that all blow up, really? You know, there's stuff about the Rebels timeline here that I'm really not including in my assessment, because I think that had minor ramifications on the big picture on a whole, outside of Satine acquiring the Darksaber and the whole House Vizsla, House Ren, all that stuff. I can't even really wrap my head around when I think about the big picture of what could be presented in a Kenobi series that might give us a glimpse more as to what happened in that Mandalore massacre on the Night of 1,000 Tears. That's what I'm thinking about. And I think there's ample opportunity for stuff like that. Now, I would like to see Obi-Wan return to Coruscant and maybe have his showdown with Vader there. I think that would be really interesting.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. We go back to Dex's Diner, you know. Get a grand slam and then go fight Vader, you know. That could be very interesting. But Jason, I like how you're thinking about Mandalore. Tie it into the new saga, the streaming saga for Star Wars. We don't have a name for it yet.
All about Mandalorian.
The Mandoverse. That's it. The Mandoverse, you know.
When I heard about the Night of 1,000 Tears, I always think that they're looking at real world history, and I think of the Trail of Tears that we learned about in school as kids in the late 1830s when the Cherokee were removed to give up its lands, and they went from the Mississippi River to essentially Oklahoma, and it was a long, many miles journey, and many of them didn't make it, and the women and children, of course, faced great horrors. And so when I think about the Night of 1,000 Tears, I think it's something like that, like you were talking about genocide, the removal of native people from their planet, excommunicating them, out into the galaxy. That's kind of what I'm thinking of the Night of 1,000 Tears being.
Well, they say the planet is uninhabitable.
Yeah. Well, that's the rumor. You know, because that's what Mando and the foundlings believe, but Bo-Katan says, no, that's what they wanted you to believe. Almost like that's a conspiracy theory.
So I wonder if there's natural resources on Mandalore that were, well, obviously Beskar must be mined in the Mandalorian system. It can't be found elsewhere in the galaxy, right?
Right.
You can't have a Beskar mine on Tatooine.
Yeah, it's unique
just
to that
doesn't add
planet.
up.
Right, yeah.
It has to be. It has to be. That's where their core resource is the Beskar. So how badly have they depleted their planet of that resource? Was that something that affected their planet? And why they had to live under that dome? Because remember, they had to live under a dome.
That's right. That's right.
So there was obviously some massive environmental catastrophe that happened on the planet Mandalore. And this is all before the Night of 1,000 Years.
Exactly.
Yeah, so those guys get kicked around a lot as a star system. And maybe we'll get more insight during the Kenobi series. I never really even thought about that. I think of the Kenobi series as a much more personal, character-driven show, as opposed to something that will expand the overall mythology and the way things are rolling out on The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. But to hear you talk about it, Jason, it makes all the sense in the world for that stuff to all tie in together. Why not? Of course.
Why not? But I agree with you, and that my hope is that it is going to be a very personal story. That's what I want. Is I want to spend some time. You know, I guess I'm kind of like, you know, those Boba Fett fans that wanted to see him spend more time breaking out of the Sarlacc. Like I want to see. I want to spend some time with Ben in his, in his hovel there on Tatooine.
Just hang with him for a while.
Yeah, I want to get a sense of what is he doing in there?
I mean, he could be heating up a cup of ramen noodles for all I care. You know, I just want to hang
It's still going to be interesting.
What's he been doing in there?
Yeah, and to go with him on one of his vigils to look over Luke and have a look at what's going on in the Lars homestead. I want to see
that. Chased away by Owen.
Oh, definitely. We got to get we got to get that moment. You're just a crazy old man.
Come on, you old wizard, get away from here.
Yeah.
Leave my moisture evaporators alone. And my nephew.
The Yoda questionnaire.
All right, the Yoda questionnaire. What Star Wars moment makes you smile?
Oh, I think the funniest scene in Star Wars for me is the whole bit when Luke in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke is rescued from the Wampa, and he's convalescing there in the medical bay, and Han and Leia and Chewie are in there, and he has that little bit of, but you didn't see us in the South Passage. She expressed her true feelings for me. That whole bit. I must have hit it pretty close to the mark to get her all riled up like that, huh, kid? That whole bit, and I guess you don't know everything about women and the kiss. I love it. I love it. It always makes me laugh out loud and smile. Laugh it up, fuzzball. That close up they give on Harrison Ford for that line. It's great. I love that scene.
Well, it certainly is a great moment in the sequel that reinforces the friendship and chemistry the characters have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Without those little moments, you don't have that connection between the characters. They did the same thing in Return of the Jedi when they all gathered on board the Mon Cal starship in the war room, and they had that little moment. And Lando was talking about the Battle of Tanab.
Yes.
Who did they get crazy enough to volunteer for that? He's like, my team's ready. And then Luke, who's part of your team? I'm here. Luke's there. It's like, wow, what great chemistry. They're all coming together. And it's, and there's just like this loosey-goosey nature about, the way that they're walking into a terrible situation together as friends.
Yes.
And that's what's great about that moment there in Echo Base in the medical bay is really, really helps reinforce their friendship.
Yeah.
Reinforcement I would have loved to see happen in Star Wars Episode 7 or 8. But Han Solo was stabbed in the gut by his son on a bridge. Luke Skywalker didn't show up till the end, and Leia, she changed her hair. We got that.
Same jacket, though.
But see, for people who go, oh, you guys just never shut up about why the original 3 didn't reunite in the sequels and stuff. But it's such an important part of the mix, the recipe of Star Wars is to have those character situations where their chemistry is so obvious and you can really feel it.
Well, without bringing them together, there's
their friendship.
Without bringing them together, there's no point. Why do it at all? You could still have made more, you could have made new Star Wars, but to get all of them and not bring them together, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the whole missed opportunities.
Yeah. Well, what Star Wars moment always makes you smile?
Well, I didn't realize this until we went to see the mystery Star Wars movie on Disney Plus Day that happened. Remember at the end of last year? The big Disney Plus Day, and there was a mystery Star Wars movie that was being shown, and it was Rogue One. And my row of Rebel Force Radio friends, family, and supporters were laughing in hysterics every time Saw Gerrera delivered a line of dialogue. I didn't realize how funny that guy was. Until our jokes about him kind of started to take priority in the theater.
Yes.
They all started laughing. It surprised me, actually. I'm like, I know why they're laughing,
Yeah.
Bull gullet! Buddy, Rook, pilot.
I'll give Rogue One, I love to give Rogue One lots of credit, but it had some wild ideas and some weird concepts that would have really made George proud. That whole idea of the boar gullet, I feel like that's like right out of George's head.
He can feel your thoughts. Bull gullet.
He knows the truth.
Bull gullet knows the truth. So, Saw Gerrera, really a great character and kind of funny when you think about like us goofing on him and stuff. But he's what a cool character. And here's the interesting information that we got recently on RFR Q&A from our buddy RFR VIP Martin Lamping. Martin Lampin, who lives in the UK. And he has heard reports from Rogue One location shooting, and because that thing's been shooting all over England, and they're not really incorporating the volume technology, the wraparound LED panel.
You're talking about Andor?
Andor.
You said Rogue One. I'm sorry.
Rogue One. Well, I keep calling the Andor show Rogue One.
Yeah, right. Why not?
They should have just called it Rogue One, the series. Right. Rogue One, the next generation. But no, it's Andor is what I'm talking about. So sorry about that. But there's been reports Forrest Whitaker has been spotted in England.
Kidding. Really?
Yeah. So I think the chances are strong we'll be seeing Saw Gerrera in the Andor series. And that'll probably launch. My guess is around September.
Yeah. You think we'll see it before we see Mando season 3?
Yes. I don't think we'll see Mando season 3 until like very late in the year, like we did with Book of Boba Fett. Last week of December. That's when I think. That's what I think we'll see.
Andor will be a fall release. Likely.
Yes.
It might go something like Kenobi, Bad Batch in the summer, Andor in the fall, and then back with Mando and late winter around the holidays. That's
exactly how I'm speculating the rollout will go. And then in 2023, we'll get Ahsoka in the spring slot, and then we'll get Acolyte in the fall. Well, no, you know what? Andor is said to be multi-season.
Oh, it is?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So I think we're going to get 3 seasons of Andor. I think that's the plan. But we don't know if it's going to be year after year after year. We could skip a year.
Right.
You never know. I don't know if they're shooting everything at once either. I don't think they are. I don't think they are because K2SO is not in season 1.
You mentioned K2SO, and we're talking about stuff in Star Wars that makes you smile. There's so much great humor in Rogue One. There really is. I mean, as serious of a film, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so serious, it's so dark," but there's a lot of really good humor. I would tell you, and I don't think I'm saying anything wild here, but I think it's the first time I'm just articulating it in this way. I think that Rogue One is the most George-esque Star Wars that we've seen since 2012. I really do.
Well, it's a great prequel, if you will, to A New Hope.
But there's George stuff in it. It just feels like there's stuff that George would have been.
Yeah, the weirdness. You brought up the weirdness of a Borg gullet earlier. I think
some
so.
humor.
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
George
has humorous stuff.
I mean, I think the story is that one of the reasons that George tossed the Star Wars script off to the Hayeks is because he recognized that he needed more humor. There was a note, I think, that he got from some of his peers, and I think he wisely recognized he wasn't necessarily the guy to do it. And so I think George has always understood the value of humor to diffuse tension and all of that when you're telling drama, action. And so when I think that whether he wrote it or not, I think George infused a lot of humor into Star Wars and made sure that there was humor in it.
Well, I've always heard that George is a funny guy.
I don't know.
You get to know him. He jokes around a lot. Yeah, Seth Green used to say stuff like that he can be pretty loose with his sense of humor, and he's funny. And I mean, I even caught a glimpse of George's humor. The one time I had him on microphone at the Four Seasons, and he saw me holding my Zoom recorder, which is a handheld digital recording device that you could plug microphones into and whatnot. And it has these two little onboard mics in front of it. And it looks a little intimidating when you're holding this thing and you're approaching a guy like George Lucas. And he said, "Hey, is that a taser? Don't tase me. Don't tase me." And the Chicago Sun-Times was there, and their reporter said that George's sense of humor was on full display as a local reporter approached him, and George thought his recording device was a taser and said, "Don't tase me, don't tase me."
Looks like a taser. Oh, yeah, I've heard that before.
Put that thing away.
I've heard Zap. Of course, it's an honor to meet you. I would never tase you, for sure.
And this was right around the time that "Don't Tase Me, Bro" video was going around. So I think George was kind of tapping into that a little bit. But yeah, it was Bill Zwecker from the Sun-Times who was there with me, and he wrote about it in his column on the Sun-Times. I was like, oh, man, that's great. That's me.
What a cool thing, because Jim's referring to is an event that was actually hosted on stage. The interview portion with George Lucas was hosted by Jon Favreau, of all people.
That picture you're showing, I took that photo. That's my photo.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah. I was with those guys all day that day.
Yeah, if you're a Rebel Force Radio Patreon supporter, you're going to see this photo right here as we release the full show that you're listening to in its video format as part of the all-access tier of Patreon.
Yeah, that's a pic I took of Favreau and Lucas from that night.
Yeah, that's cool. This is actually a photo that Jimmy Mack took. But, little did we know. Now, he had already played Pre Vizsla, I believe, at this point in the Clone Wars. So we had that connection. We also know what, he's a student of great film and fan of George Lucas. But to think that he's helming or co-helming, the biggest phase of live-action Star Wars since George Lucas is pretty cool. You look back on a photo like this. Very cool.
Very cool. It was a great night. And of course, Jon Favreau, he is, he's from New York, but he started his whole career in Chicago doing improv. And
comedian, comedic actor. Yeah.
Right. So
What a career.
it was a really, really fun night. And I was snapping away photos. And that's a picture that you put up there, Jason. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I recognize that as my own the instant you put it up there. I remember when I took that picture. I was like, hey, just George Lucas and Jon Favreau just casually talking here in the corner of the room. Somebody better take a picture of this.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, I would imagine that we've got, because I've heard the stories and laughed my, my face off at the stories that Jim has told of what was really going on there in that room. And as it's got to be on a podcast somewhere. I'm sure that this whole story has been told, but it's a good one. It's a good one. All right, let's. We got another voicemail here. Let's check it out.
Chut, gentlemen. This is Craig down in Austin, Texas, and just had a quick question, quick comment, and just wanted to get your thoughts. With the recent HasLab Rancor project that wasn't funded, and now the release of the Book of Boba Fett, where we got to experience the Rancor again, just wanted to know if you gentlemen think that had Hasbro waited until after Book of Boba Fett and released that project, would it have been funded? Do you think that excitement and seeing it again, seeing it like we've never seen it before, would have produced enough excitement in fans that would have resulted in that project being funded? And do you think we have a chance now that Hasbro might go back and re-release that and see if we can get the backing to make that happen? Just wanted your thoughts on that, see what you guys think. Do you think Lucasfilm let them know that, in fact, hey, guys, we're going to have a Rancor in the Book of Boba Fett? And if that's the case, why would they have released it before? Just curious on that. Or do you think that those two are in communication? Does Lucasfilm communicate with Hasbro on these releases at all? I know we've talked a lot you guys have talked a lot about Hasbro and their failures, but I just wonder how much of it's related to Lucasfilm not communicating with them or how that actually works. So anyway, love the show, and thanks for all you guys do.
Appreciate it. Would it have worked? Okay. I think we would have had the same issue.
Really?
I think we would have had the same issue in that we would have wanted as fans, we would have wanted the Rancor Keeper. And I don't mean just, Mala Keeley. I'm talking about Danny Trejo. I think no, really.
Listen. I laugh just because of the absurd obviousness of this situation. Imagine that thing not getting funded if it had been proposed to us after the episode featuring Danny Trejo. It would have been a slam dunk.
Yeah, you could have done, because here's the thing that would have, they've already got, I think, multiple. Book of Boba Fett era Boba Fett figures coming out for the Black Series. So you could have easily done, sort of maybe just a little bit different deco on it. And I think the real sweet spot, here's where I think they're really smart about that Bib Fortuna Jabba's throne room, is that we deconstructed it through the help of some other folks online that is going to be backwards compatible. That it's not a HasLab, but it's this Hasbro Pulse exclusive vintage collection, 3 3/4 inch scale, Jabba's Palace playset that you can insert the Bib Fortuna throne to reenact that scene from Book of Boba Fett, or slide it out and insert a Jabba the Hutt. And I think if they would have done that with this Rancor, where you would have made him compatible with a Boba Fett figure, a Danny Trejo, a Mala Keeley, or whatever the deco is, you could have put the piercings in, you could have done different things to make that Rancor work with either era. It would have been a slam dunk. It would have sold. It would have made it. But you wouldn't have been able to do it without at least one Rancor Keeper figure, whether it be Mala Keeley or Danny Trejo, I think.
What if it came with a Gamorrean styled in the way we saw them in the Book of Boba?
Dad bod Gamorreans? shirtless Gamorreans?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you say dad bod about those guys, but if you met them in person, you'd probably be pretty impressed by their physical size and stature.
Yeah. No, I know.
You'd be like, these little chicken arms I got here. These guys, they're ripped.
Yeah, they are.
Maybe not ripped in the traditional sense of ripped.
But they're ripped next to me, that's for sure.
Big.
Yeah, they're big.
Imposing.
That's a curious one because they've got a brilliant Black Series Gamorrean Guard figure.
Yes.
They would just need to resculpt that torso and, kind of scale it down, make it a little bit more Mando-like or Book of Boba Fett-like, I guess. I don't know, but I feel like they needed something. The thing is, they needed something new. Just like you buy the Razor Crest, you get a couple of new vintage figures on vintage cards. You bought the rank or the Jabba sail barge. You got a couple of figures on vintage cards. Not that that's the reason that you buy it, but it sure makes it easier to justify. And I think that's what people were looking for. They wanted something new that they wouldn't normally be able to get elsewhere. And that's where the miss on the Rancor was, I think.
As a fan of the traditionally sized action figures, I will buy anything that gives me access to a new figure to add to my collection. And this goes back to 1999/2000 when Hasbro released Padme's Royal Starship. And I purchased it for $100 because I wanted the red R2 unit that came exclusively with that starship.
I remember that now. Yeah.
All right. Now I have more astromechs than I know what to do with. Thank you to the Droid Depot at Disneyland. Which I don't think they do that anymore, where you can just sit there
Build your
and
own?
put together your own customized astromechs, 3 3/4 inch size with the little pieces and make your own customized things. I don't think they do that anymore because everyone's germs get all over the pieces and you can't, risk spreading the virus around by building yourself a custom R2.
Oh, the figure pack-in promotion or that whole idea, goes back, to the vintage line as well. You would get pack-in figures. I think at the time it was the only way to get. Was it the AT-AT commander, the AT-AT driver that came with the vehicle, or did they not do? They didn't do pack-ins with vintage.
No, not with the vintage. I mean, the only thing that could be considered a pack-in is the Salacious Crumb that came with the Jabba.
Weren't there some Sears play sets? Some Sears cardboard play sets?
Well, the Creature Cantina featured an alternate-looking snaggletooth, blue snaggletooth.
Right.
And that was the only place you can get that. The Droid Factory had an R2 unit with 3 legs.
The third-legged R2.
Right, yeah. But that was the only time that you were...
There was a Cloud City
you had to deal with.
Wasn't there, too? Cardboard
Yeah,
Cloud
but that
City?
just came with typical figures that you can buy on a card anywhere. Lobot, Cloud Pilot, Han Bespin, things like that. It was never anything exclusive to stores and stuff. Not like you see nowadays. Not even close. So no, none of those. Yeah, there were pack-ins.
Yeah,
but that was done after the fact, only to increase the value of re-releases that Kenner would do. They would re-release toys and old molds, which was really considered to be risky back in those days. Because why would kids want a toy from 5 years ago when we could make them something new today? That didn't happen. It happened in Star Wars.
I guess the pack-in figure with vehicles really started with the postmodern era in the 90s. I'm thinking about, you got a Wedge Antilles with a collector case. That was a big deal.
I remember. Oh my God, the hours I spent in the back of the Toys R Us store waiting for those idiots to unload the truck and come up empty-handed.
That was a big one.
For sure. I was told for sure that this was going to. Oh, like
you waited. Jimmy Mack waited 25 years for a Wedge Antilles action figure.
Come on. Come on. I find out my nephew in Peoria has his, no problem.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm going to take it away from that 13-year-old, I swear to God. But, and he ended up selling it. He didn't even give, listen, I love my nephew. His name is Colin Snyder. I'm calling him out on the show for the first time ever. He was, during the sequel era, me and him bonded over Star Wars. He was a little kid. You know, I was a 30-something-year-old guy, and there's a little kid, and I'm trying to integrate myself into my new family, the Snyders. And this is my brother-in-law's kid. And me and him are hitting it off. We love Star Wars. He loves it. He can, you know. By the time the sequels were about halfway over, Colin outgrew Star Wars. And I was like, well, the kid's timing is terrible. You know, we're in the middle of the prequels. What's the matter with him? But that's okay. But I knew he had this collection of action figures in his basement. He had that Wedge Antilles pack-in that came with the Millennium Falcon collector case. And the Millennium Falcon collector case was a piece of junk, but the Wedge Antilles you wanted. Now, see, what you have on the screen here, that's the original version of the Wedge figure. He's wearing Luke Skywalker's helmet, and he has 2 white bands going down his arm sleeves. That was the desirable one. That was the one I needed. The Millennium Falcon then was released again with another Wedge pack-in that had corrected helmet detail, and it was lacking the white stripes on the sleeves. But that original one was a variant that I desired very much, and Colin had it. and I think I made, I've made a few pitches monetarily to acquire that Wedge figure from him, and I was shut down. And then one day I made another inquiry about it, and I was told they were all sold. So all the Star Wars stuff sold. And I said, you didn't even give me first crack at it? Are you kidding me? There it is, the Millennium Falcon carry case. Jason has it on the screen right now. That picture was probably taken in Colin Snyder's basement. as he was putting it up on eBay. So Uncle Jim couldn't get his hands on it. But Uncle Jim remembers. He remembers. So Colin's now like 40 or something. I don't know. But
oh, man.
Yeah, so that's my memory of that particular one. Then they started doing the pack-ins with the speeder bikes. That's when the pack-ins really started happening with modern Hasbro figures.
Right. You got the Endor Leia, Endor Luke.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the Scout Trooper figure. And those were specifically designed to sit on the speeder.
Oh, dude. The first time we saw Star Wars figures with bending knees blew our minds.
Right.
Oh, it's like G.I. Joe. The knees bend. It's so exciting.
Advancements in articulation were just... had us buzzing as a fan community.
Oh, my God.
Believe me.
Yeah.
And then the Leia figure, I remember, had a giant crotch. If you can find a picture of
Leia.
The Leia speeder bike, Power of the Force 2, circa 1997. And then you'll see she wore a poncho that covered it up. But when you remove the poncho, you would see there's a picture of the figure, but you have the figure in package wearing that poncho. Find the poncho removed.
Wow.
And you will see one giant rebellious crotch.
You know where I go? I got to tell you, I'm gonna give him a plug because this website is such a huge help to me. Galacticfigures.com, formerly known as JediBusiness.com.
Oh.
And that's our buddy Chris B. And I'll tell you what, man, I was working on my collection to put them up on display. And all of a sudden, I found a weird knife. And I go, oh, no. I don't know whose knife this is. Could be anybody's. And so I just started going through, and he's got these great photo archives. Everything is arranged in these amazing categories. You can look them up by toy line, You can look them up by movie, the characters themselves. You can look them up by like what they do, like the different pilots. If you just want to see all the X-Wing pilots or the B-Wing pilots or the A-Wing pilots, he makes it so easy to find these figures. And then you can narrow it down by process of elimination. And I found that it was it was Cara Dune's knife. It was Cara Dune's knife, so I was able to get it back in her boot. But galacticfigures.com. Chris is not asking us to plug anything here, but I just love this site. He also has an awesome podcast, too. If you're into Star Wars collecting, he breaks down the news weekly. They're short, in and out, like 20, 25 minutes, just gives you what you need to know, the headlines, what's showing up in stores, in and out. I just love it. He's fantastic. So galacticfigures.com. But it's a great way to help, organize your collection, make sure you know what you got, what you don't have, what you're looking for, all that good stuff. But Leia's crotch. I'm looking.
Everyone's looking at Leia's crotch.
But there were some funny there were some funny figures back then. That's for sure.
It's called what do they call Jedi business now?
It was Jedi business. Now it's galacticfigures.com, which
why
so
did
Chris changed
the
it.
name?
I don't know why Chris changed the name. He must have had a good
Jedi
reason for
business.
it. Yeah, I like
We're
that.
here on Jedi business.
Yeah, everybody had
Go back to your
Hayden
drinks.
Christensen. Jedi business.
Jedi
back
business.
to your drinks.
Nothing
Losers.
to see here. Nothing to see. But that's good, and yeah, that's where you can go to reunite Cara Dune with her knife.
Right.
That's good to know. That's good to know. What are we doing next? Yoda questionnaire? Or do we have another voice?
Let's do another. Let's do another.
The Yoda questionnaire.
All right, this is a tough one. Which Star Wars character is your favorite?
This is really hard.
It's really
today?
Hard. My kids always used to ask me, who's your favorite Star Wars character? And I could never give them an answer. I would always say, my favorite Star Wars character today is Dengar. It could never be, I could never settle on a single Star Wars character. So every day would be someone different. And it turned into a game I played with my kids. And they would always ask me every day, who's your favorite Star Wars character today? And I could never repeat myself. And this went on, ladies and gentlemen, for several years. This went on. And it became such a fun thing, though, because you know how little kids are. And we'd be in the house, and for some reason, let's just say, Michael was like, 6 or something, and he'd have to go to the front of the house. The family would be in the back of the house. We'd be in the family room watching TV. The lights are all on. But the front of the house maybe was a little dark, and no activity was going on in there because everyone was in the back room. And so he'd go up there, and he'd get nervous about being alone by himself in darkened areas away from the family. And so you'd hear this little voice coming from the front of the house, go, Dad, what's your favorite Star Wars character today? And so I'd yell it back to him, Greedo! Whatever. And it just became this really fun thing that happened in my family. So who's your favorite Star Wars character today? I've always had a hard time answering the question, who's your favorite of all time? Jason, I know you have one. I could probably guess who your favorite character is.
I don't know that you can. Do
you want me to?
Yeah.
You want
What's
me
your
to take
guess?
a stab at it at least?
Take a stab.
Old Ben. You're like Steve Sansweet. You love Old Ben Kenobi.
I do love Old Ben Kenobi. The problem is as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that as much as I love Old Ben, I'm just not good enough to be Old Ben. He's so good. I think at the end of the day, what I know in my heart of hearts is that as much as, I'd like to see myself as Old Ben, as much as I'd like to see myself as Han Solo, as much as I'd like to see myself as these characters, I'm sorry. I'm the fallible. I'm the work in progress. Mm-hmm. Luke Skywalker for me. Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars character. He's me. I'm him, and I think in a way we're all him. That's my favorite. Luke.
my connective tissue with Star Wars is all based on how I see Luke Skywalker. He is the most relatable character. I think he could be one of the most relatable characters in the history of storytelling. There are very few I can see that a universal audience will connect with and make that ability where they can actually transfer themselves into the character because they can connect with it on such a simple level. Luke represents so many of the basic wants and desires that are represented from youth. I can't think of another character that really shares it. Now, another character I was really able to relate to fictionally is like characters like, think of the classics. Think of Tom Sawyer. Think of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. You know, these are characters that are just, it's almost impossible not to connect with them. But my true spirit animal in Star Wars is Han Solo. That guy is me, man. He is me. I think he had a lot to do with influencing me as a person. Han Solo, with his cynical edge and his no nonsense, cut the BS, let's just cut to the chase. I mean, a lot of that stuff I can look back at and say, wow, maybe I am more connected to Han Solo, even though I relate more to Luke Skywalker because of the incredible, universally accessible nature of the character. With Han Solo, he's like, that's my spirit animal, man. That's who I connect with. Yeah.
That's a good one. I think you have to be honest with yourself in these. You know, I talk about cosplayers a lot, and I go, you know, sometimes you got to let the costume choose you, right? Like, you know, Han Solo didn't have Coke bottle glasses. I'm sorry, he doesn't, and he won't. And I don't care how much you love the character, it's not. So, you know, maybe. I don't know what is your speed. Maybe Dr. Vindy is more your speed. You know, sometimes you just got to be friends with facts.
Don't send.
I'm trying. Well, I'm just trying
from Han Solo to Dr. Vindy.
What I was trying to go is like, okay, glasses in Star Wars. Come on, we did a whole thing on glasses in Star Wars.
Glasses in Star Wars.
We did a whole expose. I
can accept a Luke or a Han wearing glasses. I guess, but you know,
wear contacts.
Vest on a dude. He's got glasses. Poor guy can't get LASIK surgery. You give him a vest and a blaster. He's Han Solo. So, no.
I found it, by the way.
What's that? Did you find crotch?
Yeah, I found the crotch. Look at this.
Well, that's only, you know.
Well, I mean, this is a pretty good shot of it. I mean, this is a wide crotch.
It doesn't represent the acreage of the crotch. No. You have to see it without the...
Oh, man, I thought we were so close.
The poncho. No, it has to be completely poncho-less. I'll bring it to the next show if I have to.
So here's a note to our buddy Chris B over at Galactic Figures. He's got these great photos, you know, so you can kind of see the figure in all the different, all the sides of it. And there's a shot of her without the poncho.
Yeah.
But you don't get a real appreciation of that crotch. So, Chris,
you see its potential.
Yeah, there's crotch potential here.
But yes, it is a pick designed, I think, to minimize the sheer shock and awe of that crotch because it's huge. I mean, it's just, like I said, acreage.
If Chris is listening, please improve galacticfigures.com by adding a shot of the enormous crotch of the Princess Leia that came with
Do better.
Speeder bike. Famous crotches of Star Wars.
For 500, Alec.
Well, I mean, Steve Sansweet has Forlom's crotch right there in Rancho Obi-Wan. I don't know. Does Steve, when he's doing the tour, I can't recall if he points it out and calls it Forlom's crotch.
He does. I think I introduced him to that.
Did you? It's okay. He embraces the crotch now?
Yeah, at first he was like, Jimmy, you know how he gets. But then I think it kind of settled in with him, and he's like, yeah, you know what? That does get a lot of laughs when I call it Forlom's crotch. Let's run with it.
I mean, you can call it a cod piece, but that's not as funny.
I think it may have been called that.
Yeah,
for a time, cod piece.
Let's face it, it's
let's go with crotch here, Steve. This is a museum. Act like it.
Oh man, what a great time this was! Thank you everybody for your voicemails. Our Patreon supporters, once again, please check us out. Go over to patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio, or you can go to the Rebel Force Radio website and click on the Patreon banner, and you will be treated to all of the options that you have for joining. You can join us for as little as $1 a month. I mean, come on, $1 a month. But there's all kinds of tiers that are available. There's an all-access tier that gives you access to the full show video. So the very podcast you're listening to right now, if you like to, watch it on your TV, watch it on YouTube, we provide a special link that you can access the video. So it's really convenient. My son is probably the biggest fan of RFR video. He falls asleep many, many, many nights during the week to RFR video. Can I watch your show? Can I watch your show? That's not going to last much longer. I know that.
Wonderful. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's cool. But also exclusive podcast, Jimmy Mack was just talking about Babu Freaks, which just released, and there's so many fans of the Q&A. You never know what you're going to hear with the Q&A. It can be, most of the time it's Star Wars, but sometimes it's Star Wars Plus. One of the last ones that caught my eye was a mashup of Star Wars and the Beatles.
Oh, yeah. Whatever our VIPs want to discuss, I'm usually up to the challenge. And we did discuss Star Wars and the Beatles. We recently had a show, Two Countries, One Fandom. And that's when I was talking to Martin Lampin, and he laid on that Andor info from the UK to me. And we also compared notes on what it was like to grow up as a Star Wars fan in the United States compared to what it was like to grow up as a Star Wars fan in London. And there's a lot of similarities and a few differences, too. But since I say, Star Wars was created in the USA and mostly shot in the UK, we both can claim home field advantage in that category. And so it was great to get talk to Martin about all things Star Wars and Star Wars UK. And lots of things going to be dropping on our Patreon page between now and the end of the month. I have a backlog of great Q&A discussions that are going to be launching within the next 2 weeks. So you want to be there to hear it all. Only $1 gets you in the door and listening. So that's Rebel Force Radio at Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
And if you like the format of this episode this week, we when we're not doing after shows, we try to do these comm links regularly. So that's normally an exclusive to podcast listeners. But above all, we want to hear from you. We love talking to you, so please keep those voicemails and emails coming. Show at rebelforceradio.com is the email address. The voicemail line is open 24/7 at 708-320-1RFR. We're active on the social channels like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Check us out there. And, of course, the website for all things and everything, Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. Really, really, really appreciate the support. If you'd like to help us out here, no better way to do it than just tell your friends, tell the Star Wars fans in your life to listen to RFR, Rebel Force Radio. Subscribe on your podcatcher of choice. And if it gives you the opportunity to review Rebel Force Radio, we love to have those reviews. Just one rule, please.
Make it good.
There have been some good ones. We get this great digest that's emailed to us every week, and we see these reviews. Some of them make us laugh. There's a lot of good ones out there. We are streaming 24/7 on your podcatcher of choice. Apple Podcasts, iHeart, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Audible, Pandora, Samsung, anywhere you can find podcasts. You will find us right here at Rebel Force Radio, and you will find us right here next week on Rebel Force Radio. We'll see you next time. Love you all so much. For RFR, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
Rebel Force Radio.
Always remember,
Your focus determines your reality.